I'd like to appreciate for giving me a leg up for this for coming up for our interview. My name is Langis Longwani. It's great meeting up with you, man. You've done a lot of things in Africa that we should be thankful for. We should be appreciating as us coming up. We're looking up to you guys. You know what I mean? So I know you were a chartered accountant, so we're gonna start by asking about your background and everything and all that. So could you please elaborate to the audience about who you are, man? And most people don't know you, man. I'm just so shocked.
Well, thanks very much for having me on this thing. I'm not shocked that people don't know me. Um, no, my name's Alan Knott-Craig. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a chartered accountant. Fortunately, no, I don't practice as a chartered accountant anymore. I've been an entrepreneur since 2003, and I've had a number of businesses. All of you know, all of them are kind of trying to get people on the internet. So try to make the internet more affordable and more accessible. Okay, I've had a couple of flops. One of them was Mxit, and I've had a couple of wins here and there. So had some ups and downs. But one of the reasons people like you like me is because I'm quite open about sharing the flops. I don't just talk about where I went right. I'm not afraid to tell people where I went wrong.
So we understand that. How did Mix It just ended up failing? Because it was it was the biggest, I think, broadband which connected users to message each other in South Africa. I think it had like more 10 million users, I think. But WhatsApp was coming along, in the way with the easier user interface friendly.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
please tell us about, yeah, please tell us about. I just want to start there before we get into
Yeah.
iPost and all the innovations you created.
Oh. Mxit. So firstly, Mxit was a great success, and it's something South Africans should be proud of. The people that started Mxit, built Mxit, I wasn't one of them. They deserve a lot of credit. And at its peak, it had like 10 million monthly active users, changed a lot of people's lives. People were making a living off it. People were finding love on it. People were being entertained on it. It was a great application. It was a great success story. Um, you know, we took it over as we could see these looming kind of thunderclouds, one of which was WhatsApp. Um, I think there's two reasons Mxit failed. One was it was always going to fail if you were going to try to compete with WhatsApp, because WhatsApp just had more money, more users, more everything. They're just going to wash over you, and so that is we got our strategy wrong. We tried to compete head on with WhatsApp, and that's my fault. I mean, that was my strategy, so I messed it up. And then I think the second thing is because we got our strategy wrong, we didn't really focus on what we should have been focusing on, which was Mxit was probably more of a dating app than it was a social media, instant messaging platform. So, if we'd kind of focused on rather being more like Tinder than like WhatsApp, maybe we wouldn't have come up head to head with WhatsApp and kept our little niche and carried on and been around today. I think part of the reason we didn't want to do that, it wasn't as cool. You wanted to be cool. You didn't want to be, like a dating app. But I was young and stupid back then. Still am quite stupid, but I'm not young anymore. So hopefully I don't make those mistakes again.
Yeah, so could you please tell us about your first business? Was it iPost or yeah? How did you start? Because you were a chartered accountant. Why didn't you
Mm.
continue, doing being a chartered accountant? And like, how many, like you were an accountant. How are you failing so much if you
Hmm.
know
Look, let me just start by saying I'm
your
not,
business? Yeah.
yeah, I'm not disadvantaged. I'm a white guy. I grew up in apartheid South Africa. I think I was like standard 8 when Nelson Mandela, well, when the new South Africa began, when we had our first democratic elections. My dad is a guy called Alan Knott-Craig, same name as me. He started Vodacom. That's quite useful in life if you've got a dad who's like made some money and is famous and you have the same name. So I had a lot of advantages over a lot of people. And nothing I talk about is trying to deny that. It's more about just saying, I got really lucky in life. I won a lottery ticket when I was born. and a lot of people win lottery tickets. You, for instance, could be really fast running, or you could be beautiful. You could be whatever it is, some of the genetic given gift. And it's not so much being shy about that, like luck of the draw. It's about doing something with it. So if you've got fast legs, go become a sprinter and try to get to the Olympics. And if you, whatever your little thing is, and my little thing was, I got this little leg up in the telecoms industry. So once I qualified as a chartered accountant, I tried to get a job at a bank, but none of the banks wanted to hire me. And but then I got given an opportunity by an entrepreneur called Gavin Variges to start a business with him doing cell phone tracking. It was in the telecoms industry. I didn't have to work for Vodacom, and I didn't have to work for my dad effectively. And obviously, I wasn't going to work for MTN, so I could get into the industry without having to kind of go into one of the big mobile operators. That was my first business. We did cell phone tracking. Almost gave up on that. A year and a half in, we were struggling. I tried to quit. Gavin made me change my mind, and then luckily, after just over 2 years, we started making money. We figured out how to make money, and then it turned out to be a great success. Cellfound was a good success for our investors and me. We sold that in 2007, and then from there I went to iBurst, and iBurst is like a wireless broadband operator. So that was a great fun adventure, but we didn't make any money out of that, so it wasn't very successful commercially. And I learned a lot of lessons about broadband strategy and telecom strategy from all of that. So that's how I got going.
I mean, it's staggering to think about, because in our society, it's very difficult for like a come up with no mentor. Like, did you have any mentor? Did you have someone that was like actually guiding you in this right pathway? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we all know that, okay, we all know that you need university for some parts, of success. That you need like access to internet, to research and stuff like that. Read books, if you need to read books. Do you believe in reading books? Do you believe in the knowledge of other people that they might prepare you, for that particular success that anyone might be looking for and stuff like that. So that's what I'm currently interested in, just finding the right people that should give you that right pathway, success routes that anyone might need. So I just want to
Yeah.
know your perspective in those things as an entrepreneur, because
Yeah.
you know you need a compass in your life, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. No, firstly, I had a built-in mentor, my dad. My dad is a business legend, and he had to talk to me. I think if I wasn't his son, he would have ignored me. He wouldn't have taken my calls, but he couldn't avoid me. I had supper with him every day, and I could lean on him all through my business career up until about 10 years ago. He had a stroke about 10 years ago, but up until then, he was like gold. It was like literally like having gold in the room. And all the things that he'd learned in life, I could lean on him and I could ask him advice, and he gave me priceless advice. So without that, I don't think I could have come close to where I've come. And that's just luck of the draw. That was my dad. I can't tell you choose your dad. So um, and along the way, I met some other mentors as well. I met a guy called Brunt Pretorius. He was like Mr. Motorcar, McCarthy Motors. I wrote an email in 2008 that went viral called Don't Panic. And after that email, this legend kind of reached out to me and asked me for a coffee, and we had a coffee, and he just took a liking to me. And I've also benefited enormously from his mentorship. So I've had a few people like that, but it all started with me having a bit of a leg up, just thanks to my old man himself being in business, a great mentor. And and reading books. Reading books. I read a lot of books. I had a kind of health issues when I was young, and that's when I got into reading. So I love reading, and it's an easy way to kind of learn from the rest of the world. I do think to myself, it's a bit unfair, guys like, my background and stuff gives me a bit of a leg up. So part of the reason I'm into this internet thing, trying to get people on the internet, in particular, everyone on the internet, not just rich people, like trying to get township communities on the internet, get everyone on the internet, is it's the only real way to try and level out the playing field a little bit as far as learning from others is concerned. If you've got access to the internet, you can see these interviews with legendary business leaders and other people that have come from different walks of life, and you can there's more access to just general information, general examples, more videos. If reading's your thing, then you can read stuff just to make it a little bit easier for if you're coming from a family where you don't have anybody to lean on, just to figure out how the world really works in the world of business. And
Yeah,
then,
sure, man.
maybe by the way, just to say, I mean, I started writing a blog about 2010, about 14 years ago, and it became a daily blog. And I've written something like 4,000 blogs, and they're all about how to be an entrepreneur. And I just realized that if I'd been when I was young, I wish I could have read how to do it. Rather, I mean, I got to ask my dad a few questions, but there was still a lot of things I had to learn. So I just thought, I can't be alone in my thinking that there must, it'd be nice if somebody was just explaining, firstly, making me feel like I'm not alone. And secondly, just giving me some hints about how to go about dealing with challenges. And then that has actually ultimately ended up in this book that I've just published called Life Lessons, which is more like business lessons. And it's like a summary of all those little things. And the people that seem to like it the most are young black guys like yourself, for instance, because you didn't have the good fortune that I had of growing up in a family that had a lot of business lessons on tap. So, it's interesting. In a weird way, like me sharing some of that stuff is widening my network in a totally unexpected way.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate, really appreciate. So another thing, you're mentioning your dad. He was also the CEO of CLC, am I right?
Yeah.
So you had a contract. I was listening to your interview with I think it's Startup Local Grind.
Yeah.
You mentioned that when you were the founder of CLC, you're the CEO of the company. You were building. You had a contract. You had a contract with with I think it was CLC for ATime. So you're using
Mm.
ATime to reduce costs, yeah, for the company. So and then you had to reduce you had to cut you off for the company because the contract in terms of agreements because contract of interest, something like that. Can you please elaborate more yeah, I wanted to know why.
Sure.
Why was that?
So before I bought Mxit, I did a deal with the CEO of Cell C, a guy called Lars, that we would become an airtime distributor for them. So we would sell prepaid airtime, and you make like a percentage, and we were going to make quite a lot of money. I didn't get that deal in writing. That we kind of did it in principle. It was a no-brainer. Cell C was going to make money. We were going to make money. Before I did the deal to buy Mxit, Lars got fired, and then just after I did the deal to buy Mxit, my dad actually got hired to become the CEO of Cell C. He'd been in retirement for a couple of years from Vodacom, and then he went to Cell C. I was like, oh, I was going to, part of my brain was like, oh, this is pretty good. But I was also a little bit nervous. And it turned out my nervousness was justified because he said, look, we can't do a deal with you, Al. It's going to look bad. It's going to look like nepotism. It's a massive conflict of interest. So I just want to keep my life simple. We can't do this. And because he was now the CEO of Cell C, MTN and Vodacom were definitely not going to help me. So we ended up not being able to get that kind of distribution deal that we kind of banked on for Mxit. It's one of the reasons one of the reasons my partners, my shareholders lost confidence in me is, that deal never, failed to materialize. Yeah, that's just how it goes. But thank you for reminding me of that, and well done for putting two together. Not many people have figured that out.
No, no problem. And so, and how did the project this is come into fruition? Because you had the 1 million from the councillors, right? You had the 1 million contracts for 3 years, and then it grew massively. It ended up being one of the biggest Wi-Fi broadband in South Africa. Could you just expand, just tell the audience more about that too?
Yeah. I started an NGO called Project Isizwe. The mission was to bring public Wi-Fi to within walking distance of everyone in South Africa. So free Wi-Fi, effectively. You could walk from your home and always find free internet somewhere. Just the idea was to get funded by the government. So the government, just like the municipalities pay for the roads and the sewage, basic services, they should think about internet as a basic service. I didn't get any traction in the Cape. I ended up via the Daily Maverick. I was introduced to Nat Kekana. And Nat Kekana was the ANC chief spokesperson for the Gauteng region. And he introduced me to a guy called Koscienso Ramokgopa, who was the executive mayor of Tshwane at the time. And the Koscienso Ramokgopa, who we call Sputler, his nickname Sputler, Sputler and I just hit it off, and he completely bought into this idea that the internet levels the playing field, and it's like a basic need. You can't just say, oh well, people can't afford it, so they shouldn't have it. So we started with a very small contract just to prove the model in Tshwane. 5 townships were Attridgeville, Ga-Rankuwa, Shoshangove, Mamelodi, and I think the town centre as well, Church Square. And yeah, it worked. It was a miracle. And what another miracle is they actually paid us. So that was a big miracle. And then another miracle, they agreed to expand it to the rest of the city. And then another miracle that we actually managed to deliver the goods miraculously. And another miracle that they paid us again. And it just expanded. It became the biggest municipal Wi-Fi project in South Africa, probably in Africa. And but no other municipality adopted it. I visited lots of other municipalities over the time, partly because they didn't believe it was important, partly because they were corrupt. And whenever anybody asked me for anything got a bit shady, I would just walk away. So we were just extremely lucky with Sputler and Chwani. There was never a hint of anything underhand, and they really genuinely wanted to make this happen, and we could work together with the municipality. So it was a great learning experience for me for how powerful public-private sector partnerships can be. In the end, though, we had to leave. 2016, there was a change in government. The DA took power, and then they wanted to kill everything related to the ANC. So, and one of the things that kind of was under the microscope was Chwani Wi-Fi. In the end, they realized, okay, it's not a bad thing, and it is working, but they want to change something. So they put it out to tender, and I think Altec, or one of the big companies, now run it. So Project Decision is not involved with that anymore, but we're very proud that we were part of having got that baby born and brought into the world. It's a lot of people have used it. And our project is run by a lady by the name of Shireen Powell, and they focus on providing Wi-Fi for schools, for the students of the schools, not just the administration. And they get sponsored by corporates like Investec or Sibanye or Anglo American, or big companies that want to look after their local community schools. Project Decision does that.
Your first project was self-fund, where you had potential investors and you were cut off by the company because of, I don't know, what was the story there, and like what happens in those scenarios where now the partners are just saying, you know what, because you're a minority shareholder, could you just please elaborate more on that too?
Well, my first company
Fine.
was self-fund. I was a minority, but I never had a problem. I've never had a problem with those guys. They were the best partners anybody could ever ask for. And I just thought that was normal. Then my second company that I started was World of Avatar slash Mxit, became Mxit. That one, when things started going badly, my partners started, well, we just, the real test for a relationship is when things go badly. Everybody's relationship is good when everything's going well, but things were going badly, and we didn't. Unlike at Cellphone, where things went badly, we kind of worked together to figure it out. When things went badly at Avatar and Mxit, we stopped working together. It became a relationship of conflict. And then you got to leave. That's what happens. If you're a minority, you got to leave. You can't fire your shareholders. And then in Heratel, my next business that I started was Heratel. Great business, very successful business, national kind of footprint, rural broadband provider. And that, I ended up selling that a couple of years ago. And the reason we sold is because not all the shareholders wanted to go in the same direction, and we reached a point where we couldn't align. So, and then we had a big competitor make a hostile takeover of it. So that became like a bit of a tug of war with the gorilla. And when you're in a tug of war with the gorilla always wins. So again, probably wouldn't have happened if we'd had a total alignment amongst my fellow partners and I, but live and learn. And then that's why 2 years ago I started another business called Fibertime. And I've got a whole lot of partners again. I'm going down the same road again, and I'm just hoping that we keep aligned through this whole journey so that we don't have another need to sell or exit. I'd just like to have the same email address for the rest of my life.
Oh no, congratulations, I mean, about your, success stories and everything. We really appreciate entrepreneurs like yourself who are just spreading the word out there that South Africa is still doing, South Africa is still hitting, the targets, it's still up there. We have resources, we have people that are fighting for this country like yourself, which is sad, because the most celebrated people out there are the influencers, are the people that talk about comedy and stuff like that, but they're not appreciating the people that are creating innovation, creating more job opportunities. And we thank you for that, man. We really appreciate that so much. And also, like, I want to get into the point of your lifestyle then, your newspapers. What's your thoughts then? And now, just take us to the emotional, you know, and the happiness routes towards the success and the failures, because people know you now you're in this area. You're the successful guy from Mxit. You're well known, the CEO and everything. What's happening when you in these pitfalls?
look, I mean, I've had some wins and I've had some setbacks. The lessons I learned from the wins is don't get arrogant. Jeez, you must just, I mean, I did get arrogant, like everyone does, you know. You get cocky, and then people want to kick you when you're down. So there's just literally no upside in being arrogant. You become blind, you become stupid. There's a lot of reasons not to let success go to your head. Um, Failure. I've had a few public setbacks, and yeah, I've been in the sun at times for bad reasons, and I've been in the media, like people saying, "What a loser." And at one stage, my nickname was "Weapon of Mass Financial Destruction." So, I mean, what do you learn out of that? First thing is, it actually doesn't matter. The people who care, the people like your family and experienced executives, they don't read that stuff and care. They're like, it's just meaningless. So the people who care, the people who matter don't really care. And then the people who do actually read these things and it seems to matter to them, they don't matter because obviously inexperienced. They don't know how the world works. It's a bit like a muscle, getting used to public failure is a muscle. The more you do it, the more used to the stronger you are for handling, you know, humiliation or whatever you want to call it. And I've had a few moments like that. That's not to say that it's fun, and I don't encourage anybody to fail on purpose just for the hell of it. But the one big thing that's come out of all of it for me is the importance of family. If once you're married and you've got children, they really should be your priority, and they'll be there when you have a little setback, unless you neglected them. But if you look after them and you have a little setback in your career, they're not going to care. They're going to love you no matter what. And of course, your parents and your grandparents and your siblings and your family should always come first. It's important to make a living. It's important to have a career. It's important to try to get ahead in life. But you mustn't put that ahead of your family. Your family's got to come first.
And like for startups, for aspiring entrepreneurs out there that want to get to your position and stuff like that. Let's say they're in college, or they don't want to go to college. They want to just start the entrepreneurial routes just effectively and instantly.
No.
Um, should they seek investors? Just go to these incubation competitions, or go to banks, build business. Like, what's your first thoughts of the process? Okay, I want to start my business now. I want to go to this journey. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just going to be going. Like, what are the initial steps that you have, for any people out there that's just looking at you and be like, I want to be like that guy that created CEO, the other guy that created Mxit. Sorry. So yeah,
It. You have a rich dad, that's my advice, or have a famous
have a
dad. I
rich
mean, that's
dad.
like, those are my life, I mean, I can't deny that that's part of the reason I've done okay. But look, what helped me in life is I had a lot of safety nets. I mean, I had my parents; they loved me, and I felt that financially, if I ever really hit the ground, they'd catch me. And then I had my chartered accounting qualification, so I just thought, like, if entrepreneurship doesn't work out, I could fall back on that and get a decent job. I married a CA as well. She can make a living. She paid the bills for the first 2 years. I mean, I couldn't have started my first business without her because she paid the bills. She had a job and I was slugging it out. So marry rich, or marry somebody who's a professional. Get a professional qualification. Just have something to fall back on. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think just dropping out of high school or varsity and kind of plunging in, it's highly risky. I didn't do that. That was my own experience, and so and if you're not lucky enough to have gone to a school or have parents that know lots of wealthy people or connected people, then you kind of have to build your network all by yourself, because it's pretty difficult raising capital if you don't know people. And I always say, just go work for a company like Alan Gray. Alan Gray is a company with a great reputation. The people that work there have a great reputation. They've got money, and you spend 5-10 years working and you competent, then they'll back you when you want to go raise R1 million or R2 million to start your own business. So it's a bit slower than, say, if you went to Hilton and all those people just because you went to school with them, but it's kind of the right type of people. I wouldn't go work for the Guptas for 10 years and then think, now you've got a great network. That's the wrong kind of people that you're going to meet in that environment. You want to go work somewhere really credible, like an Alan Gray, for instance. And these company names kind of pop to mind easily, the ones that have a great reputation and everyone respects and they do the right thing. Yeah, and then when it comes to start a business, man, I mean, it either calls you or it doesn't. If it's a calling for you, then you got to do it, and you got to grab the first thing that comes your way and start learning. But a lot of people, it's not their thing. It's a very uncertain world. It's a very risky world, and there's nothing wrong with not doing it. But if you do want to start your own business, then you've got to grow your network. You got to have some safety nets for yourself. You've got to keep your overheads really low. You got to try and make sure you're not in a position where you need a salary every month, because starting a business means you have more financial insecurity. And maybe the biggest thing is just get married. Not necessarily somebody who's rich, just marry someone, marry a girl or boy that's got your back, and you're just going to take that noise out of your life, because the noise, the distractions of the opposite sex are a big distraction. And once you've married someone, you're just taking that noise out. You're not going out all the time anymore. You're not thinking about that stuff. You're not texting anymore. You're just concentrating, and you've got a life partner that can have your back, maybe financially, but definitely emotionally. Because being your own boss and being an entrepreneur, it's not always roses, and it's great to have somebody in your corner that has got your back.
And now Fibertime now it's currently in progress, connecting the next 3 billion. You know, what are the goals and objectives for this corporation now? Where you're working on? What are the initial what's going on in Fibernet? Just spread the
Yeah.
word, man.
Yeah, sure. So like there's 17 million homes in South Africa. 4 million homes have been passed by the traditional fiber industry. There's about 13 million homes that haven't been passed or connected, and they're in the townships. And there doesn't seem to be a plan to connect them, because the traditional fiber operators like Vumatel don't have a business model for townships. And the business model is very simple. Pay as you go. Just that simple. You're going to sell more cigarettes if you sell them one at a time than if you sell boxes of cigarettes. It also means you've got to provide a free install, so you can't charge customers for their router. So Fibertime, just our business, we just said, okay, we're going to do townships. Let's make the router free. So we do a free install. We connect every single home, not just the ones who want to phone us. And we sell you a voucher for R5 for 24 hours of uncapped 100 megs per second fiber. It's just that simple. And we started about 2.5 years ago. Hi, Monday, the township outside Stellenbosch was our first place. We went 100 lessons there. Now we're in KwaZulu, KwaNobuhle, Woma location in PE. Actually, we just started in Zwede as well. And in Cape Town, we're in Fulani and Kraaifontein. We're going into the other communities around there as well. And I actually think we've broken ground now in Joburg, and we've broken ground in Bloemfontein. So, we're getting there. And we've got an enormous market. Like there's 13 million homes, to connect. That's I mean, a lot of people use their lives you're going to affect in a very positive way, and we're going to make a shitload of money. I mean, sorry for the swear word, but it's you're going to be a big profitable business if you manage to get a percentage of that market in your business. It feels like it's the early days of a massive boom. I mean, even though fiber is pretty ubiquitous in the leafy suburbs, the vast majority of South Africans don't live in leafy suburbs. So it's a massive untapped market and we've got a model that services that market, and we're hoping to kind of crack on. So next couple of years, hopefully we get to 1 million or 2 homes connected. And then from there, South Africa hopefully will have momentum, and then we want to grow into cities in the world that are like South African cities. And there are more countries in the world that are like South Africa than there are countries in the world that are like England. So 196 countries or so in the world, 42 are OECD. That's like the first world. That's the West. Most countries are more like, most cities are more like Tembisa and Alex than they are like Tokyo. So we're hoping to go to places like Bangladesh, Philippines, the rest of Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, LATAM. There's a lot of opportunities for us in the major metropolitans, wherever they're slums or townships. And that's really my dream. My dream is to build a global business that not just helps people, but makes some money.
So just please explain right how you're working, like how are people using Fibertime in their homes. You're gonna come to their homes and do what, basically, and how are they gonna connect, and like the structure, it's 100 megabytes per second to 250 megabytes per
Mm.
second, the bandwidth. So if you just like,
Yeah. So
for
when
an
we
average
decide
person
to
who
go
doesn't
into a
know.
community, so let's just say you're living in Tembisa, for instance, and you want Fibertime. Well, you've got to wait for us to get there. So we go to the municipality, we ask for way leaves, some municipal process. Then we go to find a local partner. Once we've got a partner and way leaves, then we find a builder and we start building. So let's say Tembisa is 2 years away. In the next 2 years, we'll go knock on everybody's door. We'll get permission to install a router, and then we'll start planting poles in the ground down the pavements. and then we string fiber along all the poles. And then at the top of the pole, we string fiber down from the pole into every little home around the pole. And then we'll put a router in the home with a UPS, so it works when there's load shedding. And then you've got fiber in every home. So every home, every single home in Mxit, at no cost to you living in Mxit, will have a fiber router. Then you take your phone, put on the Wi-Fi. It goes, looks for SSIDs, a local Wi-Fi. One of them will say Fibertime. Click Fibertime. It says enter your voucher. Enter your voucher. If you don't have a voucher, you can buy it right there, or you can go to a spaza shop and buy it. £5, £5 gets you 24 hours. So you enter your voucher for £5, you get unlimited fiber for 24 hours on that device. And our minimum speeds are 100 megs per second. There's no catches, there's no like tricks. It's not like suddenly you're using it and it stops working, and then the operator says, no, you used your data. So I didn't use my data. I did use my data. So it's time-based. You can't cheat people on time. You can cheat people on megs and gigs. You can, trick people into, how do you argue whether the guys used gigs or megs, but you can't cheat on time. So it's a very honest service, super fast, much cheaper than the internet at my house, for instance, or most leafy suburbs, because they're just people living in the townships. So it's a more dense population, which you can sweat. And simple as that. And then hopefully, it's a 100-year asset. So hopefully for the next 100 years, that infrastructure, people are using Fibertime, and as we get more economies of scale, for the same price, we make the network faster. So over time, you keep getting faster speeds for the same price every single year.
That's amazing, man. It's not something fugazi. Yeah, it's really an honor speaking with you. Just like it's a blessing. I don't know how I could have met you if it wasn't for LinkedIn, and
LinkedIn's
I'm just grateful
and the
for the
internet.
response. Yeah, I'm just grateful for having you on the show, man, and just excited to just share this with my audience and everything.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it was an honor. Yeah, it was a great thing. Thank you.
Pleasure. Nice to meet you.